There's been a lot of talk lately about the DC So White campaign, which is a campaign that talks about the lack of black leads and main continuity over at DC. Essentially what it comes down to is there hasn't been a black ongoing book at DC in well over 1100 days. We are pushing up to 1200 at this point. And because of that, there has also never been a black-led ongoing story for a black woman character. And I'm here today to say we can nip both of these in the bud with my personal favorite DC character and who I feel is a fan favorite for a lot of people, because whenever she's brought up, I see people exclaiming how much they would love to see a story with her. And that character is Vixen. The history of Vixen is a crazy scattered one. See, the thing about Vixen is she holds a very important place in DC history as a whole. She was supposed to be the first black woman mainstay character in DC or Marvel when she was created by Gary Conway, and he was going to give her first series that was almost published back in 1978. Now, that obviously didn't happen, and she actually ended up debuting in Action Comics 521 alongside Superman. So what happened? Well, very much unfortunately, 1978 was a year where there were a lot of blizzards and an entire snowstorm, which halted a lot of distribution over at DC, drove down sales, and had them shelve some 25 ongoing and prospective titles all at once. One of those titles was Vixen. But it's not 1978 anymore. In fact, it's 2026, and Vixen has been around for a long time, yet still has not gotten her own full-on ongoing solo series. So when Gary first created Vixen, he was trying to deal with the perceived lack of strong female leads that were currently in DC Comics. He was using it also as an opportunity for DC to have additional books, because at the time they were trying to find some. And in looking at all the characters that were underrepresented, it was female superheroes. They had Wonder Woman, they had Supergirl, they had Power Girl, they had Wonder Girl. Power Girl, I do believe, was also created by Conway. And in his mind, there were a lot of girls and not a lot of adult women in DC. And so he decided he wanted to create one. On top of that, he felt that there weren't enough black women characters at DC Comics. So he decided he also wanted to create a minority character by having a black superheroine, in order to create a more inclusive basis on comics, in comics. So you all know that Marie is not the usual kind of superheroine. She is very business minded and is a model. And the way that Conway came up with that is because, well, he based Marie off of the supermodels of the time. This was the 70s, and back then supermodels were all the rage, and they were really starting to be on the rise. Now, the thing about supermodels was, while yes, they were women and objects of the male gaze, they were very empowered, and they took charge of their own images, created their own businesses and own identities based off of their supermodel personas. And Gary Conway very much looked up to that and wanted to show that in his books. So when creating Marie, he created her with that in mind. Now, he of course did give Marie the backstory of being born in an African village. She was born in the fictional village of Zambesi to Reverend Jiwe and his wife, who were unfortunately killed by poachers. In fact, you find out later that they were actually killed by her own uncle, and that there is a magical totem called the Tantu totem that is passed down through generations that will eventually come to be in Marie's possession. Now, this totem has been passed down through this tribe and was initially given by the spider god Anansi, and grants the wearer the ability to essentially tap into the animal kingdom and then some. It's actually crazy the amount of things that Marie is able to do, despite the thought that she's only technically given the abilities of all the animal kingdom. But after Marie's parents die, she leaves and she moves to America, where she starts her career as a fashion model. Then one day she decides to go on a trip back to her home, and that is where she actually comes back into, that is where she actually finally comes into the Tantu totem and how she receives it. Now, if anyone knows anything about things like the blue and the green and all those things, when it comes to the animal kingdom, DC has something called the red. that is the animal kingdom version of what you guys know as the green, which is things like people like poison ivy or swamp thing. So that the red is essentially what gives Vixen her powers, and she is able to harness that through the Tantu totem, something she actually does not need, but is able to help her focus her powers a little bit more. Once Marie actually comes into contact and receives the totem, that happens when she runs into Superman and things ensue, stuff happens, and before long she becomes a part of the Justice League herself, and she goes on adventures and they save the day and yada. From there, Vixen would go on to be in a handful of other books, including her own miniseries, Return of the Lion, which was a 5-issue miniseries that ran back in 2009. So that's it. That's as much as we've seen Vixen outside of the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, the very brief Vixen animated movie, and the live action within the Arrowverse. That's it. But the crazy part is Vixen has so much potential and is one of the most creative heroes that DC has on their roster. So if we want to fix this issue with having no Black-led stories, Vixen is a wonderful place to start. Not only have we rarely seen her, so there's not really much you can worry about having to retcon, she's amazing. She's powerful. She has the potential to go up against Superman. And that goes more into things like the red and tapping into the red that we're not going to get into today. But she has so much potential. And on top of that, I know 2 people who have given very good pitches for Vixen. And in fact, if you'd like to hear a pitch from Stephanie Williams herself, then go check out BJ Kick's Comics Are Dope, where she gave her entire pitch on his show, where you can listen to that. In fact, you should go check that out right after this video. But all of that to say that Vixen is the perfect beginning to starting to give us more Black characters and more Black-led stories at DC Comics. I mean, there's not really much else to say. Vixen is amazing. DC should step it up. And honestly, I believe that so many people would benefit from more stories that are showcasing a lot more of their characters, because DC has so many characters that they could be using right now. But anyway, remember, every Friday I interview Black women who work in the comic book and manga space. Those go up Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you can check out other videos and breakdowns I've done on this channel, all geared towards Black women in comics. If you have something to say, please leave it below. And remember, if you can't be polite, it will be gone. And as I always say, a small spark can become a huge flame. And I'll see you guys in the next video.